The need for sustainable wealth creation, especially in a country with over 200 million people like we do in Nigeria, is very important to sustaining our economy. We all know that, yes, the world economy has been observing some ups and downs, but the federal government has done so much to ensure that wealth is created and people are empowered in one way or the other, from the low to the medium and to the high-end earners. In doing all of this, the federal government of Nigeria can be commended. Now, this will be our focus today on Executive Discourse as I welcome you to another lovely time. My name is Ololade Adinijadele. Of course, Executive Discourse comes to you on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority, the NTA. As it's our style, what we do is seek out trailblazers in their various chosen fields, people who are retaining the name of Nigeria and the map of Nigeria on the world stage. And today I have somebody that we're bringing to you from the world of business, from the world of banking. He is a seasoned banker and he has operated at the highest level, talking about the Central Bank of Nigeria. Today, he has been asked to man the affairs of an organization that is seen to proper and accurate wealth distribution, especially amongst the low-end earners. Please join me as we welcome on Executive Discuss the Chief Executive Officer and Managing Director of Nersal Microfinance Bank in person of Mr. Abubakar Kure. How are you, sir?
Thank you. It's my pleasure to be with you.
It's a pleasure to meet you too.
Yeah.
So for the purpose of our viewers, could you please take us through your story? Where you were born, what schools you attended, and your early years, how you got to where you are today?
Okay, thank you so much. I'd like to first of all thank my parents for grooming me, to instill discipline in me, and to provide the drive to move forward in my career. I was actually born in Lapai, local government of Niger State. From there, I went to secondary school in Sokoto, which they call Capital School then. Probably the name will have been changed now. Thereafter, I went to Government College Bida, and thereafter, Ahmadu Bello University, Zaria, where I did my first degree and second degree. And then, in 1991, I joined Central Bank of Nigeria after my youth corps.
And
it's a long journey.
Yes, I know.
After 30 years in the service of the bank with determination, discipline, and accountability, I rose to a director. It's not an easy journey, especially when you're in central bank, where you have a house of money, where you have stakeholders looking at what you do, what you don't do, where you are the monetary authority of the country that drive financial stability, price stability, exchange stability, interest stability. So I've been involved in various roles, and I thank God somehow my efforts have been rewarded. That's what brought me to where I am today. The management of the bank felt they needed somebody who would be here, and they sat down and I said, okay, I should be here. And I think we have made an impact. But largely, I think the drive and determination is the part of the success story, and also the discipline. For you to hold this type of organizations, you need to have discipline, because you are dealing with both private sector funds and public sector funds. Private sector funds coming from bankers committee, public sector funds coming from CBN. So for you to manage it well, for you to provide direction, transparent accountability, you actually need discipline. And I think I got some of it from my grandfather, who actually I grew up with.
Okay.
And I cherished my name. Integrity is the key. Wherever you are managing bank, integrity, especially where public funds are involved, you need to show example to ensure that the place is managed very well.
All right. So your early years, yes, between Niger State and then, of course, Sokoto State and all that. Now, one thing just comes to my mind. Why banking?
I wouldn't. My course I read. Probably,
what did you study?
I studied business administration.
Okay, business administration. Yeah. Maybe we should start from there first. Why business administration?
Yeah, because I felt I can manage businesses well. It can equip me to be independent. No, they are not necessarily working for public sector. You can be in private sector if you are equipped with the skills around entrepreneurship, financial literacy, how to manage money. So business administration equip you to be able to manage businesses. And I felt, beyond the fact that central bank is not necessarily like a business enterprise, but it also has concern around SME, economy improving around private sector. So that's equipped me. And I felt businesses, you can be independent, and more importantly, I want to be comfortable. And if you look at Nigeria today, people believe that public sector, that's where the money is, but that is not necessarily true. And this public sector is becoming shrinking in terms of resources. Okay. Because accountability is increasing, probity is increasing, EFCCs are there, ICPs are there, Code of Conduct are there. So if you look at the private sector, is the way to go. In developed countries, you don't make money in public sector. You make money in private sector. So my conception was I actually wanted to go into business. But by accident, I found myself in Central Bank. Again, Central Bank has equipped me to be able to manage money, to be able to manage myself, and even exposed me to how to manage various stakeholders in the value chain.
Wow, that's interesting. I know that part of your achievements at the central bank is the delivery of the Treasury single account.
Yeah.
But I also know that you must also be aware that there are some Nigerians who really do not understand what exactly we mean by the Treasury single account. Yeah. So can you quickly take us through this so that we don't lose our audience and they understand the concept of everything we're talking about here? Okay.
Treasury single account just means that you should connect your accounts to be in one place, so that at the end of every day, you should be able to have a consolidated balance to say Nigeria has cash holding of, say, 2 trillion, 5 trillion, 4 trillion. At the touch of a button, you should be able to know that. Because before then, what is happening is that government have scattered funds across all commercial banks. Okay. And governments at the other end borrowing from the public, from external, to fund its developmental efforts. So you find that government has idle cash balances, and at the end of it is also borrowing. But in treasury accounts, the government through the central bank, because it has a central bank, and it's deliberate because it has to be central, because central bank has a more going concern factor than other commercial banks. Commercial bank can fail. So there's a safety net in central bank. So at any point in time, the government can be, this is my treasury, this is my cash balances. So the idea about treasury is to efficiently and effectively manage cash balances, so that government can provide developmental role based on available resources. So in doing that, you can do your reconciliation, you can do your payment system, You can be able to say, I need to borrow if there is shortage quickly.
Or I have a surplus.
Or I have a surplus, I need to invest quickly. But if you are scattered, if you have accounts scattered across all banks, you can't do that. You can't have consolidation balance. So surpluses are invested, shortages are quickly reimbursed. And you can be able to also borrow at a more effective rate, because by the time you are borrowing, it then means that all cash balance will have finished. But before you have it scattered, so the one that you have in central bank is the one that you only know. Those are other commercial banks, you are not aware. So, and also the best practice says even the government should get interest from central bank. In other words, government should be able to get interest from central bank, because the government is keeping its money there.
Okay, so the central bank pay interest?
No, currently, if you are in the news, you will have seen a lot of money borrowed from central bank already. So the issue of paying is no longer there, because you can only pay when you have credit balances. But most importantly is that the government is doing effective cash management under Treasury account, and all the leakages. Probably there have been significant leakages from brokerage, for people looting government money, and all those leakages have been blocked. And it's also challenging running Treasury just like this place. We thank God we're able to do it without any significant risks in terms of fraud, money being diverted. But I must tell you it's challenging, because at that time you are dealing with several MDAs who also are not willing to enroll into the scheme. Until Mr. President gave a directive, there was a presidential pronouncement that gave us backing. The MDAs, the ministries are reluctant. They don't want Treasury account because there are a lot of leakages here and there. But with the presidential backing, it came in, and deliberately they started to cause problems because they are not ready and they are unwilling to engage into the scheme. But we try to make it more friendlier, more efficient, more effective. So people now begin to see the benefits. That, okay, your money is not being disallowed from spending. Initially they thought, okay, if you put their money in one treasury, how would they know what is in each person's bucket? Okay. But we have a ledger, so that whatever goes to that bucket, we will know the component of that bucket. So that each minister can say, this is my component, this is my, what I'm entitled to. At any single time, you know, yes, it is X amount of naira that you have. Exactly. And you can work with that confidence begin to build. And now it's a success story. And I can tell you that TSA, the amount of money federal government will have borrowed will have been more. Because one, government will not know its cash position at any point in time. And significant leakages that will have happened will have been more. So we thank God. It's challenging, as I've said, but yeah, because I was going to come to the challenges. I mean, change is not something that people are easily willing to adapt to, especially when they sense either by omission or commission some measure of negativity, and maybe something it's not going to be in their favor. So you must have encountered quite a lot of challenges, both personally and institutionally. That is very correct. We had to have seminars and a workshop. In that seminar, a lot of us were being criticized that it will not work. But I told them that if it's working in other countries, it will work here. We have the technology, we have the skills, we have people who know what it entails. And we're able to manage the challenge by allowing people to have access to their funds. That's the first thing. Allow each MD to have access to their funds, so they begin to be confident. Even the leakages that you have blocked, once they're able to ask access and there's transparency in their spending, people begin to see the value of Treasury Laka. Otherwise, there were a lot of unwillingness to enroll. But as I've said, what Mr. President did, President Buhari, that what helped to make it successful, because he gave a deadline. And when the President make a pronouncement and you don't enroll, the consequences of each that will face each MDA is clear. In fact, at that time, he was even saying he might have removed any MDA that didn't enroll. So all of MDA were now rushing to enroll. But again, it's also posed challenges because they are transferring to wrong accounts. So my team and I have to do a lot of reconciliation to be able to know what belongs to each ministry, reverse entries, correct entries, to allow MDAs have access to the fund. Because part of the challenge when they start, they are sending money to wrong accounts. So when the time for salary comes, Because you send your money to the wrong account, you don't have access. So my team has to spend sleepless nights doing reconciliation.
Having come this far now, you are the Managing Director, Chief Executive Officer of National Microfinance Bank. What makes your duties here different from when you were at the central bank? What exactly is the mandate of National?
The mandate is actually to give cheap credit to those at the bottom of the ladder of the economy. In other words, underprivileged people economically. Those are economically underprivileged. And that has been a lot of challenge because you need to do volumes. It's high volume, low value transactions.
High volume,
low value
transactions.
Unlike what banks do high value, low volume. But we will do the opposite. And besides that, the pricing too is low because they try to make cheap loans available. So it's basically anchored around SME. But the major challenge is actually around how to do the volumes, how to do inquiries or manage inquiries from all the stakeholders. From the manager of Central Bank that I have meeting with every week, to stakeholders from major actors in Nigeria, to ordinary people who will be looking for my phone number. My phone, I have over 100 calls in a day.
Wow.
So sometimes I decide what to pick because picking 100 calls in a day can be very, very stressful and very distracting.
Yes.
So I identify which to pick, which one not to pick. So the difference between here and Central Bank is that you are dealing with low and medium level people at the ladder of the economy. And you know, Nigerians, why there is a money, there's always pressure. So the pressure has been tremendous. But I would thank God with technology, with the support of my staff, we're able to do well. You can see I received over 20 hours. Because the way we operate here, you just go to the portal, you apply. Once you meet the preconditions, you get the loans. So a significant number of people get the loans without even knowing anybody. So that is part of the success story. And we're also seeing what they have done with the loans. You haven't seen? We have seen. Okay. We have seen what they have done with the loans. I have people coming to tell me, if not for NMLB, Nigeria economy will have shut down during COVID. So this vehicle or this bank helped remove Nigeria economy from depression and even bring Nigeria economy out of recession. So it's quite challenging, I must say so, because... Yeah, you will tell me the challenges. Yeah. But I am wondering, don't mind me, I'm just trying to play the devil's advocate here. Yeah. This is a scheme that was set up by the federal government, right? Through the central government. By Bankers Committee, not Bankers Committee. Okay. Driven by CBN. Yeah, driven by CBN. But when the average person out there will talk, it's a federal government initiative, right? To empower people. Yeah. But, you know, you and I know as Nigerians that there is usually this misconception that anything that's coming through the federal government will only, even though it's supposed to be for the general, it's usually for selective. Yeah. It usually ends up with a selective. People, maybe you have to know somebody, it has to come through one political person, maybe a godfather or something. How well have you been able to measure the spread in terms of distribution of loans? That's a good question. Yes, the federal government as well as the central government are all concerned around equal distribution of the funds because these funds are subsidized at 5% during COVID, 9% after. You can't get this loan anywhere. So while you have subsidy, you need to ensure there's equal distribution. I can tell you from our records, we have geographical balance between all the 6 geographical areas. Beyond that too, we try to balance between states. So if we see the one state on top and the last state, there's a huge gap, we try to deliberately pick data on the portal for those at the bottom. So that at the end of it, we have geographical spread. And even from some stakeholders, we say, okay, if you need to do this, you need to ensure geographical spread across your local government, across the state, so that there will be spread. And that has helped because if we don't do that, definitely there will be agitation. That one part of the country is being favored against the other. We don't want that to happen. I have my data, and even the governor of Central Bank, my boss, Mr. Mefele, is also seriously concerned about geographical distribution. In fact, he looks at the data specifically to ensure that each region has fair share. Which is also good. And that also put me on my toes to ensure that this thing is fairly done. And I think that is the best way to go. Because as I've said, a subsidy, though it's coming from Central Bank, yes, or some bankers committee, but it's also part of government. It's an initiative of the government. Any initiative of Central Bank, by some extension, it's also an initiative of federal government. Yes. So we try to ensure that all parts of the country enjoy the facility.
Are properly catered to. Okay, I'm still not trying to be a spoil sport here, but just thinking like an average Nigerian would think. We all know that there's a lot of rot in the system. And we've heard of laudable initiatives that are supposed to get to the people at the lowest rung of the ladder. But in between, either people from that lowest rung of the ladder or people that are a bit higher than them take up these slots, all in the name of one, disseminating it to the people who really need. I mean, we know of people who will collect loans meant for several people, hoping to distribute it to them, and it goes into their pockets. Do you have any kind of surveillance mechanism here? Not just your data, but perhaps physical surveillance in all your geopolitical zones. I mean, how do you measure it? How do you really know that, yes, people from this geographical location that have sought these loans, that all of these names are not fictitious and going into one pocket?
Well, the way we do, we use BVN as a unique identity.
Okay.
And the money goes to that account. So even if you are, let's say you are vice president, you are whoever, that wants to, I'm just setting an example, yes. Somebody who has top authority, he cannot divide that money because when we process, it doesn't go to account of one person, be it a politician or top government official, no. It goes to individual account of the borrower. So if you go to individual account of the borrower, it's left for the borrower to do what he likes with it. We have had cases here and there, yes. Natural Nigerians also have problems, I must tell you that.
That's what I've been saying.
In terms of managing funds, because some people are desperate. And that desperate they try to fall into the hands of scammers. So we have done a lot of campaign, radio, jingle, TVs against that. That look, you don't need to pay anybody facilitating fee. We have a whistleblowing portal whereby you can formally report for any funds that you give a third party or any person that dupe you in the process of taking the loan or processing. Even if it's a staff, you can install the whistleblower and then we can deal with that. And also we emphasize in our jungle that these funds are not grants, they are loans. Anybody that think it's a grant should please return the money. And if you take the loan, if you don't pay, Central Bank came out with a platform, what they call global standing instruction. So irrespective of why you have your funds, once you have a credit balance in other banks, we will place no debit in it. Thereafter, once you default, we will remove that money, debit that account, and credit NMIB. So people have to be conscious around giving facilitation fee. Why you give facilitation? Why you be the obligo that will pay the loan? If you don't pay, we enforce or validate that scheme.
Yes.
And we also publish your name in the newspaper. And beyond that, you can't get loan again in the banking system because this what they call credit risk management system. Once you report to that portal, you also be blackmailed that you have a defaulting loan, so you cannot take loan in any bank. So you see, there are parents around us. So I urge people that have taken the loan not to allow them to fall to scammers, not to allow them to share money with anybody. Even if somebody helps you, don't give him one kobo. I'm using this opportunity to tell people to please be patient. Resources are limited. The available funds cannot match the demand. And I think Central Bank has done very well in terms of providing the resources. But if you are patient, you might be lucky to get. But if you get, count yourself very lucky among millions. Because Nigeria has a population of 200 million. If you are talking of SME, 40 million. So you can find that resources cannot reach everybody. And these loans are not available in any commercial bank. You can't get it in any commercial bank. They will actually bring collateral, bring guarantor, bring your cash flow.
In fact, what you are bringing is more than what you're collecting.
So, and the interest they will charge you will be much. So, those who are able to get count themselves to be lucky. And they should please use it well, so that you don't go and be carry money, give your girlfriend, go and marry.
That's why some people will know that they have to marry more wives.
Yes. Or buy car to be riding, or buy house. Use it for assets that are generating income, so that you can pay back. The bank itself can be financially sustainable, and other people can also come and borrow. Because if you are not paying back, technically what you are saying, other people behind you. Essentially, Nigerians almost try to cut corners. That's what I know, because of the perception that this is public money.
It's a national cake.
Yeah, it's a national cake. That is the problem. But beyond that, people who are wise enough to have gotten this loan should use it well. I know, for instance, some of the people who even pay have never even received 200,000 in their life. And here they are collecting 500,000.
Wow.
So it's a life opportunity. Some of the money that will process after evaluation of the applicants will send to their bank. The bank will say they are returning the money. Why? Because they have failed the KYC.
Yes.
There is tier 1 account, which is basically cannot receive more than 200 to 300, depending on whether tier 1 or tier 2 KYC. So you can see it's a life opportunity. But anybody that thinks he was going to abuse it either by collecting money or by collecting whatever, some percentage, we are ready to deal with that. The police are there. We have established some rapport with Nigerian police. We are also trying to establish a rapport with the FCC, so that such things will formally report it. Because Nigeria needs to be cleaned up. We are aware there are some few cases. It's not very rampant, but we are aware of the few cases. And those that we are aware, we have dealt with them. But I'm also using the opportunity to tell people, do not allow yourself to be scammed. If you think somebody collecting 30% is getting this loan, you are getting it wrong. Just apply, and once you apply, you are evaluated, you get the loan. We know, as I've said, there's low demand and supply. Demand for the loans is higher than the availability of funds. So coming from there, you know that definitely not everybody will get. It's not possible. But we try to ensure transparency in our evaluation, we try to ensure accountability. And all the people that are given will have their BVN. That is the collateral. That is more or less served as collateral. Because by the time we activate global standing instruction introduced by a central bank, wherever you have credit balances, we will debit that account and get our money back.
Get your money back.
And we also cannot take money in the banking system. There's nothing as bad as that. We are in business. You can't take loan again. People have become very rich to use loan to make money globally. So even in Nigeria, and that's why I said the people who get this SME loan should use it well.
Now, talking about getting SME loans, I'm just wondering from all that you have said so far and looking at the functionality of other microfinance banks, would it be safe to say, either by omission or commission, that NESAL is trying to run other microfinance banks out of business?
No, I wouldn't say that. We're only complementing each other. What we have done, most microfinance cannot do it.
That's what I'm saying.
I can tell you that, because the pricing is low. Which microfinance will take money and give it at 5%, 9%? Even though it's central bank money, those pricing in terms of interest income can barely cover your operational costs. We're only able to do volumes. That's why we are running the place well. But aside the volumes, you can't run those products. I'm aware microfinance charge as much as 40%. I'm aware, interest.
That's why people will
wait. We don't charge that.
People will wait for whatever time their loans come through with NESAL than going to take a loan at 40%.
No, but NESAL loans too are unique.
How?
They are unique in the sense that if you take admins, for instance, it's structured. It's not cash, it's equipment. It's done deliberately so that you don't divert the money. It's done deliberately to enable set up SME and run it. You also have to do training. And even the COVID is targeted. It's not all the sector.
Okay.
It's targeted. That's why they call it targeted credit facility, because it's targeted towards some sectors so that Nigeria can improve, economy can have multiplier effect and improve. So it's not a matter of competition. It's a matter of complementary. And most microfinance banks don't even do intervention for a central bank. So you see, we are not doing parallel product per se. Though currently we are also trying to do our own balance sheet lending, mobilize deposit and create assets for loan.
Yes.
So that we can diversify instead of depending on central bank intervention funds. Today we have support of Mr. Governor Mefele. We don't know who will be there tomorrow. So we're also careful to the extent that we diversify our sources of money for lending. So we're already in the market now, and I urge people to place money with us. We're going to give you loans at a relatively cheaper rate, not like central bank intervention fund, but at least the commercial rate, around 20%.
Okay, will be at the same rates as microfinance banks or even commercial banks?
Yeah, will not be, because we are set up for financial inclusion. So we are conscious of that, our role. It's not about profitability. This place is not set up profitability, but it's also set up that at least we should sustain ourselves. The goal is not to say we must make money, but the goal is not to say we should also be losing money. It's a trade-off between not losing money and ensure that we also make money to pay salaries, overhead, and recurring. The most important thing is to ginger the SME sector, which is the private sector. The private sector is the engine room of any economy. Biggest economy in the world are rely on private sector.
The private sector.
They employ more, they pay taxes more, they also have more businesses than the large-scale businesses.
You said something earlier that the COVID intervention fund is not for all sectors. Is the broadcast sector included?
No.
I just needed to ask you that.
Well, let me say, you can say it's for all sectors or not for all sectors. It depends on the way you look at it. Because any sector impacted by COVID can queue in. But if you are not impacted, you have to show evidence you are impacted by COVID before you qualify. Okay. If you are an employer now, are you impacted by COVID?
We were all
you are employee. Okay, employer can be, but you are employee. How employee? You are employed NTA.
We all were impacted by COVID. All right, moving forward, for me, I look at Nesal Microfinance Bank as a form of business by the government, even though it's by a consortium of banks. And there has been this school of thought in some sectors that the government has no business in business.
Well, to some extent, yes. If you are in a developed country, yes. But because of peculiarity of our development, our level of development, that perhaps whereby central bank, on behalf of federal governments, is doing all this intervention for. If we are resetting threshold in economic development, this is what not government should be doing. Because part of the risk we are facing is the perception that it's a national kick.
Exactly.
So if the private sector driven, that perception will have gone. But if government doesn't do this or central bank don't do this, commercial bank will not do it. It's not profitable.
Okay.
It's not profitable. So you need to have a special purpose vehicle to ginger the private sector. And the commercial banks are profitability. And that's why I told you this place is not specially set up profitability. But we're also not allowed to make losses. So it's a trade-off between profitability and financial sustainability. We have to have a trade-off between these two competing objectives. So if you say government can't do this, who will do? Private sector will not do it. No, private sector cannot give SME loan without collateral. Without cash flow evaluation, without guarantor. We all do all those things.
Is it not possible for the government to do it through the private sectors with the condition that, that they operate with the same terms that you are?
No, they will not do it. Let me give you an example like Uncle Boros now. How many banks are doing it? There are very few. Maybe two. Very two. Even these arguments we are doing, some few banks are doing it. But they select who to do it.
Who to give to.
If you give it to private sector now, they will select you based on your credit worthiness. They're not going to give you this money because at the end of the day, they will take the loss.
Yes.
And they are set up to make money.
make
That's why shareholders, you have share, you have board. People who are sitting as shareholders are expecting return on their investment. So there are some business private sector will not do. But this place is set up by central bank to move SME in the private sector. A central bank, by its nature, are not about profitability per se. Yes, they also need to sustain themselves. They want their recurrent costs, be able to have income to sustain themselves. But it's not purely about making money. It's more about economy.
Driving the economy.
How do we get economic growth? How do we get development? How do we stabilize monetary policy? How do we stabilize exchange rate? So all these things are able to stabilize exchange rate, for instance, because the more goods we produce in Nigeria, the more price will go down. The more agricultural products are produced in the country, the more price will go down. And Nigeria could also be an exporter. And earn foreign exchange. So, and because of it, poverty will be reduced, people will get employment, and sometimes it's concerned along those value chain items. So you find out that that's why they are doing all this intervention for us, to bridge the gap of the fiscal sector. Because now monetary authority is supporting the fiscal sector, and once you have that coordination, I think it's better for us. We are not developed country, we are developing. So if government doesn't do this through central bank, the private sector will hardly do it. Because private sector is set up with business to make money.
All right, we've spoken so much about your activities in the bank. I think it's time for us to take a breather on this discussion. Let it not look like I'm here to look for your trouble. So we should get to meet a few people, one or two persons that you have worked with, who know you, who perhaps have risen through the ladder with you and can tell us who you are in the workspace proper. I'm sure you'll agree with me that we need to meet one or two of such people. All right, so let's get to meet one or two people who have worked with Mr. Abubakar Abdullahi Kure. He, of course, he is the managing director of Nassau Microfinance Bank. Let's get to see these people.
Mr. Abubakar Kure he's a dedicated and committed leader. He doesn't cut corners. He follows due process, and he leads by example, like I said. And he always tells us that wherever he works, he always wants to leave a good legacy. So anyone that has worked closely with him can testify to that. He always says that under his watch, Nassau Microfinance Bank is going to be a success story. He doesn't accept mediocrity. He always encourages his staff to think outside the box.
He's a person that likes progress of an institution, or he always guides people on how to get results. So he's invariably we call a goal-getter or result-oriented person. And he's easygoing, but sometimes he can be tough and difficult because he wants to get result. That's the kind of person he is. If he wants to achieve result, he doesn't compromise. He wants that result to be up to the standard. And then I'm sure for people that have worked with him can testify that Abubakar Abdullahi Kure is the one person that is no-nonsense person.
A meticulous person. He pays attention to the details, the issues as they come. I think he's also fair in his assessment of issues. He can be sometimes uncompromising with regards to things he believes in, and sometimes it takes a while to make him budge. So that is obviously usually a good thing, because it's not necessarily bad. So it's not always the best to have everybody flowing in the same direction. Sometimes it's good to have an opposing current, something that you need that keeps you grounded, makes you look at issues with an open mind before you reach conclusions. So he provides that buffer. I would also want to say that with the rest of the management team here, the executive management team, we always do that with ourselves. It's not strange to have a view and then an opposing view, and then we reach a compromise. So, and it's owing to his presence here, his leadership style that encourages that kind of if you like, a rubbing of minds before decisions are taken.
Abdullahi, as I fondly call him, is a very intelligent person. He's very resourceful, humble, hardworking, very loyal and dedicated to his job. And I am willing to defend all these accolades that have poured on him. I'm not saying that because I'm being interviewed in respect of his activities, yes. He was the deputy director working under my leadership that implemented the Treasury single account, the Naira leg, because we had another deputy director, Mr. Daramewa, who was in charge of the foreign leg. But for the Naira leg, it was Abdullahi. In fact, in the bank, people used to call him Mr. TSA. He is an asset to whatever organization he belongs to. And he's cool-headed. Abdullahi is cool-headed. We've had occasions where we argued. There's no doubt about that. But as the director, I will always tell him, no, this is what I want you to do. And in his humility and cool-headedness, you see him doing what you... Abdullahi is somebody who is loyal, because that is loyalty. If a subordinate is not loyal to his boss, if he has a contrary opinion, you want to make sure, whether that contrary opinion is right or wrong, you want to make sure that that is the line he toes. But he is not like that. He's someone that will work in line with what you think is best. But if he has a contrary opinion, he will let you know. And as you know, that also puts you on guard.
Yes, the program is still Executive Discourse, coming to you on the network service of the NTA. And we have met one or two persons who have worked here with Mr. Abubakar Abdullahi Kure. Of course, the Managing Director, Chief Executive Officer of Nesal Microfinance Bank. Now, you deal with figures. You deal with money. You deal, and okay, banking business is serious business. I wouldn't do it for anything. Don't mind me. It is what you love to do. Now, I wonder, because we know that bankers often work late hours, they keep odd hours, they even work at the weekends when they are not broadcasters like us. I wonder, how do you relax?
That's a good question.
I mean, off camera now, we were talking about sports. You used to love football. You have stopped loving football.
Yeah.
So how do you relax?
Well, I relax by doing exercise. I must tell you, I do 3 times in a week. I go out with friends. I don't drink, but sometimes I chill out in restaurants. I stay with my family, take them out sometimes. And I also love traveling, especially outside the country, not within. I love traveling. And largely, I read books too. I'm a reader for self-development. I read a lot. And I read motivational books. I read books about great people. I read books about financials, how to manage my finances.
You're still reading about managing finance?
Yeah, every day you have new things.
Everything is about money.
No. Have you ever seen cryptocurrency? People are making money now. So, because you need to read a lot so that you can, even in finance, so that you can know how to manage risk. Because even managing this place requires reading. Especially, it's a unique banking because of financial inclusion. So you need to know about financial inclusion. You need to know how to run SME loans. You need to know how to make recovery for SME loans. So reading helps develop self, wherever you are, in your private life, also in your public life. And I sleep well. That is it. Because sometimes I know my friends who accuse me I don't pick calls. Yes. I have to manage the level or the quantum of phones I receive because it's stress inducing.
Because you're under a lot of pressure.
Yes, but now sometimes I'm already asleep.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
I'm asleep.
We're still talking about your heavy schedule and sometimes the very long hours you keep at work.
Yeah.
How much time do you get to have for your family?
Well, I thank them for their support. Sometimes I don't even got to see my children. By night they have slept. But if I'm free by night, I will be at home. I thank them for their support. My wife too, it's natural. For you to go up, you need to do sacrifices. It's challenging. Nobody can be a professional banker to a certain level without sacrifice. So that sacrifice must be there. Because sacrifice means you have to leave some other things. Your family have to understand. Your family now have to know they are no longer the project. If you have time, you give them as the project. But your work is the project.
Wow.
Yes. For you to
successful. Why is it always like that? Oftentimes.
You are managing money. Anything can go wrong.
Oh, goodness.
And there's a pressure here and there. You know, people attack where money is. So you have to manage people. You have to manage your staff.
Wow.
You have to manage resources. So you have to manage large number of people, both the people at the lower and even the high level people. So combination of managed people can be stressful.
Wow. And that means sometimes the family suffers.
Of course.
For that.
But they have to recognize it, as I've said. It's a prize for success. I remember one of my former governor, Professor, would say, if you don't like fire, don't go near the kitchen. If you don't like smoke or whatever. So for you to head sensitive institutions, you have to make a lot of sacrifices. Sometimes if I see my governor, I see him under stress. But he's strong and smart. But honestly, there's challenge. I don't envy my boss, my governor, Central Bank. I don't envy him.
Wow.
Because of the load of work, stakeholders, managing the economy, managing the details in the economy. Honestly, it's not easy. But
easy
with
life
good health,
that wears the crown.
Yeah, the most important, you have to pursue your health. Pursue your health very well. If you pursue your health, other things can be managed.
Okay, so well, while the family has to sometimes suffer for these things, I'm wondering if it's possible to maybe meet one or two members of your family.
Yeah.
Because it's important that we get to hear from them.
Yeah.
How well you're able to manage that time you have for them and how they are coping, even with the sacrifices that they are having to make.
Yeah, the most important, if you are able to have a wife that can take care of household, you have children that can be able to do things without necessarily waiting for daddy. It helps. And that also helps them to grow anyway. Because if you say because you have to do everything for your children, you can't grow. But certain things allow them to do things for themselves.
You know what? You have told us your own version of this story.
Yeah.
I think it's time for us now to meet one or two members of the family to tell us how they are coping, you know, with the sacrifices that they have to make, because yes, this is a sensitive position that Mr. Abubakar Abdullahi Kure is taking, and how well they are handling it. Let's get to meet a few family members.
Growing with him, I called him like, I just want to be like him. Why? Because he's doing his best, he works hard. He always wants everyone around him to see like they achieve their goals, to achieve their own success. He wants to satisfy, like he would like to see everyone happy, like, and he's very kind to us, but a very disciplined person. Yeah, so we know how he is.
Alhaji Abubakar Kure is my immediate elder brother. We are from the same family and we grew up together. A very gentle man to the core. He's a quiet type. He's so reserved that if you don't look for his own discourse, hardly will he contribute then. We used to call it Chichiko then. But because my elder brother, I put Ya Chichiko to qualify the seniority and respect in Nupe land that is always attributable to our people.
Haji Abubakar Abdullahi Kure is an easygoing person. He gets along with almost everybody that he deals with. In fact, I don't remember him being upset at anything of recent times. So he's an easygoing person. He has always been generous, even before now. When you go to his house, and you will find quite a lot of people of different environments coming to see him.
Glad to know you're still here with us. The program is Executive Discourse, and having met some members of the family, it's time for our conversation to continue. I wonder now, because you're a man who has achieved so much. Yes, you've given credit to people, the people whom the credit is due, and to God. You've been driven well by your grandfather, in fact, both your grandfathers. But I'm now wondering, for you as an individual, having come this far, having achieved all what you have, what is your driving force?
Well, I can say my driving force is actually when I came to this place, incidentally, not even CBN, because here you feel that you have impacted on people's life in terms of providing them with financials to empower them financially to set up businesses. I had people thanking me, telling me I'm doing a good job. If we can see, I've received over 20 awards for institutions for people that I don't even know, from the west, north, south of this country. So that is the motivational drive for me, to touch lives. Because with me now, I think I've achieved what I want to achieve, at least in my career. So what is left for me is to touch life, so that if for one day I'm no longer there, history will talk about what I have done in NMB. And the most important thing, people should use the money well, because it's a life changer. I remember I was reading history about Dangote. It started with 500,000, though 500,000 could have been much more today. But that means that no matter how small you start with, you can be a millionaire or a billionaire.
Little drops of water.
Yeah, depending on how you use it. And how you use it matters. It's not how much, but how you use it. So, to me, that is my comfort, helping people.
And that is your driving force.
Yeah.
All right. When we talk about, your driving force, we're still looking at your heavy schedule. On a normal day, I know that, yes, the banking sector, and especially this office that you hold, can be very challenging. But take us through what your normal day would ordinarily be like. Okay,
my normal day is I wake up and pray. Incidentally, because of COVID now, I've restricted going to the mosque, because more or less I've become a public entity. People attack me for the mosque for help. People anywhere, they say I'm MD of NASA. People clamor me, so there is risk of COVID infection. So I wake up in the morning and pray in my house. I don't go to mosque any longer, at least in the interim. Okay. Until COVID cleans up. So by 8, so a few minutes after 8, I'm in the office. I look at the documents that I need to treat. Based on the ones that are important or more difficult ones, I look at them, because that's when I have energy. I treat them, and the less important or less ones that have priority, I will be done later. I also have meetings. I have 3 meetings in a week. Okay. One with CBN management, one with my staff, one with target settings, because I also have target settings. I try to ensure that I target around disbursements, around recoveries, around efficiency of processes. So I assemble my team to see whether some of the targets are met. And if you are not, we have to offer explanation. So these are 3 tranches. One meeting with CBN man once in a week. Another meeting with a school, and also top management staff of NMB. And then the target setting meeting. But it's challenging, and the only thing I can say is exercising that has helped. Okay. Because this place is more challenging than if I were actually in Central Bank. Because it's a new place. Okay. Beyond the fact it's a new place, billions of naira are involved. Our balance sheet is over 400 billion. So you can see there are risk issues. So I try to manage those risk issues very, very well, so that nothing goes wrong. And this bank has potential to be even bigger than some commercial banks in the medium and long run. because the target is to have offices in 774 local governments.
Wow.
So you can see the way forward for this bank is big. So it's good to manage the way so that it will be sustainable,
yes,
and be able to help Nigerians.
Thank you very much for having given us this much of your time on the program today. And you have actually ended it well. We must be our brother's keepers. Thank you so much once again. Yes, the message is be your brother's keeper. Ensure that whatever it is you set out to do, you do it well and justifiably so. Because wealth creation begins with you and I. That's what I'm taking away from this conversation today on Executive Discourse, as we have been speaking with the Managing Director and Chief Executive Officer of Nisal Microfinance Bank, right here in his office in Abuja. I want to believe that you've had a good time with us on Executive Discourse today, which has come to you on the network service of the NTA. If indeed you have, why don't you join us again, same time next week? You never can tell, as I always say, who I'll be unveiling to you as my trailblazer and my guest. Till then, God bless Nigeria. Have a beautiful time. Bye-bye.